Hello, my name is Mark Fowler. I'm the lead pastor at First United Methodist Church in Madison, Wisconsin. During this time of pandemic, we have dedicated ourselves to deliver hope 7 days a week. So I'm glad you're with me, and I hope that you will revisit this website, this Facebook page often as we are delivering hope 7 days a week with these devotions. Here in Madison, we have just experienced the horrific reality of an 11-year-old girl who was shot in the head in a drive-by. She was removed from life support, and we have experienced her funeral and her going home. Every day when I leave the church building, I go by the recently painted boards that are there on State Street. There are two big portraits that each day seem to refresh my remembrance of what is important. One of George Floyd and the other of Tony Robinson. Two who were killed, whose lives are no more, and represent so many others that have either been killed or incarcerated in massive numbers. Entire generations of young African American men especially who are no more. But we also know there are the Breonna Taylors and others. And then my mind goes to young people who have tried to come to this country, to the freedom and the opportunity that it promises, who now live in cages on the border, their lives stolen from them, their futures horrific to contemplate. All around us, we realize that the lives of young people have been taken from them in order for a larger political reality to come to life. Power is secured because fear is instilled. It's not new. Unfortunately, it is not new, and it is an old story. But just because it is old, we must understand that we need to attend to it all the more. The situation was not that different in the land of Egypt many, many centuries ago at the beginning of the book of Exodus. This is the prelude to the birth of Moses and him being put into a basket in the bulrushes, a story that was dear to my child's heart, but I had not paid much attention to the introduction. But I think today we should, because it calls us as a people to honor those who are the midwives of these who are dear to God, but not so dear to the powerful of the earth. Listen to the words. The first sentence is the most chilling in the early part of the scripture. We remember that Joseph had become the vizier to the Pharaoh, the second most important person in the land of Egypt. And now a new king arose over Egypt who did not know Joseph. And the new king said to his people, "Look, the Israelite people are more numerous and more powerful than we. Come, let us deal shrewdly with them, or they will increase, and in the event of war join our enemies and fight against us and escape from the land." What words of fear are those? Therefore, set taskmasters over them to oppress them, that they might do our labor for us. They are built that way, and they can build and supply the cities of Pithom and Ramses for me, the Pharaoh. But the more they were oppressed, the more they multiplied and spread, so that the Egyptians came to dread the Israelites. The Egyptians became ruthless in imposing tasks on the Israelites and made their lives bitter with hard service in mortar and brick and in every kind of field labor. They were ruthless in all the tasks that they imposed on them. And the king of Egypt said to the midwives of Israel, one of whose name was Shiphrah and the other Puah. Remember those names. Shiphrah and Puah. Whenever you remember the name of Moses, you remember the midwives of Israel who protected him. Shiphrah and Puah. When you act as midwives to the Hebrew women and see them on the birth stool, if it is a boy, kill him. If it is a girl, she can live. But the midwives feared God, and they did not do as the king of Egypt commanded them, but they let the boys live. So the king of Egypt summoned the midwives and said to them, "Why have you done this and allowed the boys to live?" And the midwives said to Pharaoh, "Because the Hebrew women are not like the Egyptians. They're vigorous and give birth before the midwives even can come." So God dealt well with the midwives, and the people multiplied and became very strong. And because the midwives feared God, he gave them families. And then Pharaoh commanded all his people, "Every boy that is born to the Hebrews you shall throw into the Nile, but you shall let every girl live." Now a man from the house of Levi went and married a Levite woman, and the woman conceived and bore a son. And when she saw that he was a fine baby, she hid him 3 months. And when he could hide him no more, she got a papyrus basket, plastered it with bitumen and pitch, and put the child in it, and placed it among the reeds on the bank of the river. His sister stood at a distance to see what happened. Shiphrah, Puah. The work of protecting children, who still to this day do almost unimaginable things that have to be protected against. I still cannot believe that I live in a nation that cannot rise up and stop children from being put in cages, either on the border or to find a way to nurture the unity of the nation so that black children, whose nurturing has been designed for centuries to be so much less due to the disparities of wealth, education, and opportunity, and employment, so much less. And therefore, what is the difference between a cage on the border and mass incarceration in the middle of this country? We as a church, I believe, need to think of Puah and Shiphrah, the midwives of the children of Israel, to not do what the cruelty of the nation imposes, but to do what God demands. Love, born of justice, expressed in education and opportunity and hope and a future. Remember them, Shiphrah and Puah, the midwives of Israel.